Poetry Presentation Guidelines and Types of Poetry. This is an instructional vodcast for a poetry unit for my 5th grade students. You will have an opportunity to create your very own poetry presentation, but there's a few guidelines that you will need to follow. What is your goal in this task? Well, you are to create a digital story using your original poetry that you will create in the upcoming weeks. Your presentation will also include visuals that will accompany your poetry readings during your digital story. What is your role in this task? Well, you are an aspiring poet who will present at the National Poetry Society's annual conference, where you will display and present your work in a digital story format. Who will be there? Well, poetry lovers of all ages will attend, including your parents. What is the situation? Well, this challenge involves creating authentic, worthwhile poetry that incorporates different styles of poetry, including a cinquain poem, a haiku, an acrostic poem, a limerick, a concrete poem, a free verse poem, and a collaborative piece you will get to create with your classmates. You'll need to ask yourself a few questions about how you're going to be graded if you're going to meet the criteria. Did you create all 7 forms of poetry, including a cinquain, haiku, limerick, concrete, acrostic, free verse, and collaborative poem? Were elements of good poetry discussed earlier demonstrated in your various forms of poetry? Was your digital story creative, meaningful, and interesting? Were your visuals relevant to your topics, and did they contribute meaning to your presentation? You will also need to choose different curriculum topics for some of your poetry. You must include 1 science topic, 1 social studies topic, and 1 math topic. Other than that, you are free to choose whatever topic you would like to use. Let's begin by looking at some of the different types of poetry. We're going to begin with a cinquain poem, and there's a certain pattern that it follows. If you look at line 1, it's always a noun. If you look at line 2, there are 2 adjectives that describe that noun. Line 3 usually has 3 ing words in it. Line 4 is a phrase about your topic, and line 5 is another word for the noun. Now let's look at an example of a cinquain poem. Triangles, pointy edges, revolving, rotating, angling. Triangles are all different. 180 degrees. Another form of poetry that you're going to create is a limerick. Limericks consist of 5 lines. Lines 1, 2, and 5 of limericks have 7 to 10 syllables, and they rhyme with one another. Lines 3 and 4 of limericks have 5 to 7 syllables, and they also rhyme with each other. Let's look at an example. A mouse in her room woke Miss Dowd, who was frightened and screamed very loud. Then a happy thought hit her to scare off that critter. She sat up in bed and just meowed. By Lorna. Acrostic poetry is another form. A poem or series of lines in which certain letters, usually the first word in each line, form a name, motto, or message when read in sequence. Acrostic poems can range from very simple to more complex. Let's look at a complex acrostic poem. Edgar Allan Poe. Eerie stories and poems decorate our imagination. Both good and evil are challenged along with reality. Also, love and insanity lurk through the pages in anthologies. You will never know what is to happen next. Problems of murder and mystery, oddities and wonderment are expressed with such peculiarity only he could achieve. Christina M. Another type of poetry is a concrete poem. When poets emphasize the meaning of a poem by shaping it into the form of a picture, that's concrete poetry. Let's look at some examples. I say, small sentry, come rest, molted one. Shed your soft white natal down. Come nest with me. Save me from the onslaught of their seething, teething saws. This poem was from Spotted Owl by Court Smith. Here's another example of a concrete poem. A gentle breeze blew all morning long. It picked up leaves along the way. It blew past streets and picked up cans and trash. It blew through the dump and dropped its belongings. It blew past me on my way to school and felt cool and refreshing against my skin. It blew out to the river and followed it to see where it got weak and died. A form of simple poetry you're going to create is a haiku poem, a Japanese lyric verse form having 3 unrhymed lines of 5, 7, and 5 syllables, traditionally invoking an aspect of nature or the seasons. And here's an example. Falling to the ground, I watch a leaf settle down in a bed of brown. You will also have an opportunity to create a free verse poem, and this is a form of poetry which refrains from meter, patterns, rhyme, or any other kind of musical pattern. This poem can be whatever you want it to be. Just make sure you are creative. Remember, you will also have a chance to work as a team, creating a collaborative poem on any type that you choose. And don't forget about those wonderful visuals that must accompany your presentation. You will have choices for developing your illustrations for your digital story, which include original artwork, photographs, which you must follow the copyright guidelines, or you can create visuals in Tux Paint. Please make sure your visuals add to your thought processes and the enjoyment of the viewer as they listen to and interpret your poetry at the National Poetry Society's annual convention. Remember, parents will be invited to the show as well. Poetry comes in all forms, shapes, and sizes. It can be fun, emotional, sad, happy, angry, whatever you want it to be. I hope you each embrace the grandness of putting words to your thoughts in different, unique ways. Get ready to soar to new heights, becoming creative and having fun getting there using the process of writing. Let's get ready to have some fun.